Welcome to the NNBN podcast, talking with businesses, charities and organisations across Northamptonshire.
Sponsored by Poppy Design Studio. Find us at poppydesignstudio.com.
So joining me today, I've got Eliza Seville, who is an up-and-coming racing driver in Northamptonshire, who's come to talk to us all about what she gets up to with her racing and how she found her way into racing as well. So, Eliza, welcome.
Hiya. Happy to be on here.
Yeah, they're great to have you on here. And do you want to give us a bit of a background into how you got into motorsport and what drives you really?
Yeah, so I kind of got into motorsport when I was in my teen years. Kind of the beauty of the internet, really. One of the good things about it. I found kind of videos online on YouTube and such of people kind of driving and drifting and doing stunts in cars, and I think probably Ken Block was one of them. And just kind of that piqued my interest. And even though my dad had always watched the F1, I'd kind of not really been included on that. And then it was kind of through my own kind of research and discovering these like cool things that you could do with cars that I really got into the sport and got interested in it. And then I had a really good tutor when I was at Cirencester College studying my A-levels, who encouraged me to kind of look into my hobbies as a career. And obviously the motorsport kind of came into the conversation. And from there, I found the National College for Motorsport. Yeah. So I applied for there, which is at Silverstone. And that's kind of how my initial journey into motorsport, really.
Yeah, fantastic. And you came out the college, didn't you? I was over there a couple of weeks ago, actually. And it's a lovely little setup, actually, on the Silverstone racetrack, and it's good to see where you studied, actually. So I was over there with the Bedford College group, looking around at how we can engage employers with some of the work the college is doing. But it's I was really impressed with the facilities, really impressed with how clean it was, considering it's actually sort of car mechanics and motor mechanics.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a great place to study, and I think they kind of set you up for working on race team, because it's kind of very much a different ball game from working in a garage. There is a lot more, obviously, because there's a lot of TV and kind of viewers and people that follow the races. There's a lot more to kind of how it looks, as well as actually repairing the cars and running the cars. So I think that's why they drill into you how important it is to kind of have a clean working environment and looking after your tools and everything, and keeping everything nice and neat and tidy.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic to see the setup and everything. And so I was really impressed with the facilities there. It's the first time I've been, actually, so it was really impressive. But it was good to go over and have a look. And I suppose you found your way into motorsport through, you say, your love of watching the sport on TV and on YouTube and the internet and things. But when did you actually start to race, or when did you actually take that step over to the track to actually race for the first time?
So that came quite a bit later, really. I kind of focused on my career as a motorsport mechanic initially, and kind of, I guess it was, I always wanted to race on track, but the kind of financial barrier prevented me from doing that. But being able to kind of work my way up the ladder in my career and start to earn a bit more money. And then I had an opportunity to work at Raybury Race, where they had electric autonomous LMP3 cars, essentially. And they let the mechanics test drive and warm up the cars as well as pilot them autonomously. So I got to, that was my first kind of time or like opportunity to drive on track, I guess. And I just kind of fell in love with it from there. And I since then have done everything to try and make it possible for me to drive on track as much as possible. And it was alongside that's when I discovered the Formula Women competition, which was a competition open to all women that haven't had any race experience before or had a race license before. So I entered that, which was against 1,000 other women, and became the winner in 2022. So that was my initial kind of starting point of actually getting on track. And I started karting at the same time and sim racing to kind of supplement that and get more experience in track time.
So there was 1,000 women entered this competition, and you finished number one.
Yeah,
Wow.
there was 1,000 entrants, and then through different rounds. So they had an initial assessment round, and then only a couple got selected from each country. And then there was a kind of assessment day where we all came together, which I think the top 75 entered, and they put us through various tests like fitness, on track assessment, karting races, um, and then a written test as well, and then also media, of course, how you kind of come across in front of the camera, because that's quite important as well
Yeah.
for sponsors and the like. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was quite a few, and then from there they picked the top 10, and then the top 10 went to a shootout. So it was whoever set the fastest lap in the top 10 was become the winner. So yeah.
Wow. And that led you into that was 2022, you say, and that led you into 2023, which you were racing in the Mazda Super Cup Championship.
Yeah. So that was my first full year doing car racing. So I got my license, and I'm now out of my novice license, so I got a full race license now. And then I also did the Burkitt 6 hour with Formula Woman, in the Jaguar Project 8 as well, which was a great experience, driving something with that much power. So yeah, had a lot of
What
fun last year.
what sort of power are we talking about here? Is it quite a powerful machine here we're talking about?
Yeah, over 500 horsepower.
Wow. Okay.
I think.
I wouldn't trust myself in that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's probably got about 500 newtons of torque as well.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and there was various, because it kind of there's various different classes in that race. So you have anything from Caterhams to BMWs to all sorts. So having something with that much power in that race, you power past a lot of people.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, you mentioned a minute ago about the autonomous electric cars. You actually racing them or just driving them, were you, or just testing them?
Yeah, just testing, and we did a Lucas versus AI challenge. So that was essentially, we were developing the car to try and drive as quickly as Lucas Degrassi around track. So as a mechanic, we'd warm up the cars, us driving, and then we'd also pilot them at half race speed, autonomously, just to kind of check the lines were correct and that the car wasn't doing anything that we thought would either make it slower or spin off track. And then once we were happy, we'd jump out and it would go at full speed, by itself. And then Lucas would get in and he'd set his lap times, and then we'd continually try and beat him.
Wow. I've seen some of the electric cars out the Formula Student over at Silverstone, and I thought that was impressive. But having heard you say that, that's even more impressive because I imagine it's where the future may be heading. We don't know because obviously it's all in the future. But I mean, you may know more than I know. But certainly when you sort of think about electric vehicles or the autonomous cars and things like this, of how it's all going to change, it's going to be quite an interesting future. And as an electric car driver, I'm a big fan of them. I think they're pretty good, but some people are obviously still making that adaptation, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it all goes. So
Yeah, it's amazing the technology used, and it's quite impressive, really, when you watch it and when you're in it as well, when it's driving you round, and the kind of corrections it can do, especially like at race speed. I don't think it will have too much of a place in motorsport because I think people like the driver aspect of motorsport, but I do believe it will become the norm on the roads. The autonomous, I think to kind of prevent accidents and take out human error on the roads.
yeah, I mean, as I said, we've got an electric vehicle, so just driving it on down the M1, down the motorway between Milton Keynes and Northampton, and you sort of put it onto cruise control, and you've got the lane control and everything on there, but it's always that element of, am I actually controlling this vehicle? If it's on cruise, am I actually, driving this, or is it actually driving me? But I do believe there will be one day when we'll get in the car, we'll leave a social outlet, the pub or the shopping centre or whatever, and just say, take me home, and it'll just know where to take us. So be very, very interested to see how it all goes. But yeah, that's all the future. But let's talk about now. Let's talk about get back to the current world we're living in at the moment. So the racing last year, I said racing in the Mazda Super Cup. How did you find the transition from sort of where you were racing before to moving up a level?
Yeah, it was definitely a steep learning curve, because I'd not done any car racing before. I'd done a bit of testing, and then coming into the first Mazda race, which was at Croft Circuit, it's quite a challenging first circuit, I think, although a lot of fun. And then also not having driven that specific car before. So going into the test day and we're on new tires, and it was wet, I remember. And then not having driven the car, it was all quite a lot to like take in and adapt to. But I think I managed to get to grips with it. Yeah, because you're against some of these guys that are able to go testing kind of every week essentially. So I've got to try and adapt as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
with the circumstance that I'm in. But yeah, it was steep learning curve, but it was a lot of fun at the same time, and a good challenge. And we managed to get a podium at Snetterton, so managed to adapt fairly quickly, I'd say.
Yeah, brilliant. Well done on that, because obviously to get a podium position is always good. But I've got to ask you, actually, of the tracks you've raced so far, which one's your favourite one you've raced around?
I'd actually have to say probably Silverstone, just because of it's just like a cool place to race, really. Um, I think I enjoyed Croft the most because it was challenging. Like the track in itself's really fun, um, to drive, but kind of Silverstone more for the just like it being there, and obviously it's an F1 track, and it feels like quite special to race there.
Yeah, I think people don't realise until you actually go round it. It's actually got hills on it, hasn't it? It's like inclines, and there's you go down a hill, you go up a hill, and I didn't realise. I thought it was flat, but it's not. It's quite bumpy, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the flatter circuits, but there's still a certain amount of elevation throughout.
Yeah, I've only ever run around it in the half marathon. I've never actually driven around it in the car, so obviously you can speak from experience on that. But yeah, well, good stuff. I mean, as I said, I've been around it a couple of times running, and I've been over there to watch various events, and obviously come over to see you race last year as well, which was good to see you racing. So let's talk a little bit about where you're heading this year. Now, obviously, motorsport, it's not cheap, is it? It's a quite expensive thing to be involved in, whatever level it is, and obviously that relies sometimes on sponsors to get involved. And what sort of sponsors have you got involved with you at the moment?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's such an expensive sport, and only getting worse it seems. But yeah, the idea is to try and get sponsors and give them the opportunity to use the marketing kind of opportunities that are available in motorsport. The two strongest partners I've got on at the moment are Pagola Drinks. So they're a tequila company. They've got a kind of it's a pre-made tequila all made with natural ingredients. Um, so that's one of my main sponsors, and then the other one is Fiber Marketing. So they specialize in SEO optimization. So essentially ranking as high as you can in Google. And they've Pagola Drinks have been with me for 2 years. That they're staying on board this year, and Fiber have been with me for 3 or 4 years now, actually. Um, so yeah, it's great to have them on board because I wouldn't be able to do what I do without it, and try and get to my goal, which is to race at Le Mans one day.
Yeah, fantastic. I know I was going to come on to that in a minute, actually, because I know we've spoken about that before. So we'll park that bit for a moment. We'll come on to Le Mans in a minute.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, the opportunities for businesses and for people to actually get involved with you from the sponsorship, because racing is, it is a way of being able to promote a brand and to gain interest and also support someone that is up and coming as well. So, what would you say, the advantages are for businesses to get involved with you?
Yeah, so it's kind of connecting you to a whole industry really, which is full of, well, you've got all the spectators and fans for one, as customers, potential customers maybe for your brand, but then also all the other businesses that are involved. There's kind of like a lot of businesses that come together to make motorsport happen, and then also all the other sponsors as well. So there's a lot of kind of contacts that can be made and good networking that can happen at motorsport events. And then obviously if you kind of come on board as you go up the levels, um, there's kind of like obviously growth in audience, and more viewership the higher levels you go. So that's the aim, is to kind of take my sponsors with me now all the way up to the top, and they can benefit from that growth. And then alongside that, you can do kind of specific activations. I mean, like even just bringing up the fact that you're a racing driver, it always sparks interest, and there's so many things you can do to kind of create excitement linked with your brand and a race car and racing. It's just something exciting to be a part of. So I think
Yeah.
those are the main benefits.
It's funny when you say that about being a racing driver, and it's an exciting place to be and everything. And people go, "Oh, racing driver! Oh, yeah, 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 really exciting." I find the same with like the radio. Whenever I'm on air with the radio, and people say, "Oh, yeah, I know Simon from the radio." Oh, wow, what a cool place to be. So I totally get what you mean when you say it's kind of an exciting thing to be around as well, because. And I think that was quite clear from the event that I came over to, actually, when going to see you at Silverstone. Yeah, just going in the garage and going in the pit lane and everything afterwards, and seeing everybody. And there were people talking together and meeting, and some of your sponsors were talking to other businesses and things like that. So it's an opportunity for business really to explore, and so I'm part of this team, supporting you. And then there's nothing better from a sponsor's point of view of actually going over to the car and actually saying, "There's my logo" as well. So it
Yeah.
is a way that businesses can engage. And I think the more that could look at it, the better it would be for yourself, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, that's something specifically that one of my sponsors said about. He said, "I can't believe that my logo's on a race car," which was like nice to hear. And then on top of that, obviously all the kind of content you can get for social media as well, which is always people like to engage with, because it's something exciting to look at.
Yeah, definitely. Because as I said, I mean, bits I've been involved in with, say, touring cars, a catering a couple of years ago, I sponsored a couple of years ago, and just to have like the framed picture of the car on the wall, it's an automatic talking point. People used to walk in the office and say, "Ooh, what's that? Oh, your logo," and then it was straight into conversation. And I think that's another benefit as well for sponsoring a car. It's kind of, you're connected to a sport as well, and from a business point of view, if you've got clients coming in, they can see that you're obviously engaged in recreational activities, which at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, isn't it? So that's good. And Marie's supporting you, I think, a little bit this year as well, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, so Poppy Design Studio, they're going to be doing all of my graphics, and they already have done so my sponsorship deck that will go to any potential sponsors that are interested in sponsoring me and coming on board. So that looks really professional now, so I'm really pleased with that. And then also she's done some signature cards which look really great, because I'd often do talks at kind of schools, or like I'll go to the British Motor Museum and do their STEM day, and they always like to have like a signed card or something to take away with them. Um, so yeah, those are really great. So I think she's making my brand look really professional, which is such a help to me. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good partnership this year.
Good. So let's talk about the big dream, Le Mans. You say Le Mans 24, was it?
Yeah.
So why Le Mans? Is it the ultimate place for you? Is it the big dream that you think, yeah, I want to go and do that one day?
Yeah, I think just kind of the history behind it. And then also so once I finished at the College for Motorsport, my first job was for an Aston Martin racing team called TF Sport. So I did my apprenticeship with them. And in my first year, we did the European Le Mans series, and also did Le Mans. which was just an amazing event to be a part of. I think it's just quite special, really, and absolutely loved being a part of the team, doing it, and essentially to go back and race it and be one of the drivers would just be a dream, really.
So you've been there before, but that was as to support somebody else, was it?
Yeah, so I was a mechanic on the team.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were leading the race at one point, so it was all looking very exciting, but unfortunately ended up coming seventh in the class, due to a few spins in the night, which can often happen. The conditions change as they go into the night, and unfortunately a few mistakes, and we lost some positions, but yeah, it was just a great event to be a part of, and I would encourage anyone that's never been to go as a spectator, because it's yeah, like nothing else. Even to go to that over an F1 race, I'd say.
I was going to say, because it's 24 hours, isn't it? So you got 24 hours of racing.
Yeah, yeah.
F1's
There's
what, 3 hours?
yeah.
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 So if you're
So
really into your motorsport, then Le Mans is the place to go, isn't it?
get a lot more for your money, definitely, and I think the tickets are cheaper as well. Um, and yeah, so they often have three drivers that share a car, so they'll do maybe 2 hours at a time or 3 hours at a time.
Yeah, I was going to ask how it works because obviously to drive for 24 hours is quite a long time for one person. So obviously to have like a relay, but even then, yeah, the mental side and the physical side of actually driving a car for that amount of time, and then when you've got to concentrate as well, because literally, let's be honest, you're driving at a fair pace here, aren't you? You're not just doing 30 miles an hour down the back straight or anything. You're actually
So
driving as fast as you can. So what's it like for you when you've been driving sort of the longer races? I mean, how do you find the concentration levels and things?
yeah, I mean it's definitely like an endurance test. I've done I did the 24-hour Le Mans karting actually, and then I've done a 24-hour karting race in the UK, as well as some 24-hour sim races. So I have kind of been preparing for this kind of race, and I think it's trying to balance the rest, but also not kind of sleeping so that you get into that kind of sluggish mode where you can't wake yourself back up, because obviously you've got to be focused and alert when you get back in the car. And like you say, you're not just, some people might think, oh, you're kind of holding back a little bit, but you are flat out. You're not, for the whole 24 hours. There's no holding back. So yeah, it's just trying to keep that. That's the hardest thing, I think, is keeping that alertness and that focus so that you don't make mistakes when you're really tired, and just trying to keep awake as possible.
Yeah, it would beat me. I know that. I mean, the age I am now, probably a couple of hours driving would beat me. I think just drive to Blackpool from the Midlands, that's enough. But to actually drive, that period of time with, when your body's, going through the body clock, and sometimes sleep does want to interrupt your day and things. Fair play to anybody that does it. I mean, I've seen it, I've known of it, but does it? Well, would it appeal to me? No, I wouldn't drive that fast. So anyway, hats off. I always say to anybody that gets in a racing car and wants to drive at that pace, I admire anybody that does it, because it's not as easy as people think, is it?
No, definitely not. To get these, it can be quite a steep learning curve initially to get those a couple of seconds off your times, but getting those last few tenths and being consistent is the trickiest thing to do. And if you want to be in the top drivers, that's the goal, really. But yeah, I love it. It's just I really enjoy the challenge of trying to get to that consistency and shave off those tenths, and then like the rewarding feeling of doing that, and then also like once you do come out of like a 24-hour race and you've managed to do it cleanly, no incidents or anything, is always, yeah, rewarding.
Yeah, well, brilliant. Well, Eliza, it's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you, and thank you for your time. It's great to hear, your journey into where you've got to in motorsport, and also, what the big dream looks like. But if anybody does want to get in contact with you to understand more about how they could support you, how they could sponsor you, how they can get involved with the racing, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So I have an email, eliza.seville@outlook.com, or I have all my social medias are Eliza Seville Racing, or I do have a website as well, which is elizasevilleracing.co.uk. So any of those formats.
Fantastic. So if anybody does want to get in contact, there you go. Go to the website, go to those formats, go to the email address, and give her a follow on social media as well and see what progress she's making as well. But listen, thanks for joining us. It's great to catch up, and wish you all the best for the forthcoming season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.